So we'll be back in a few minutes and we'll be talking about that. This is Vigilant Liberty Radio and the Modern Comments Radio Show, and we will catch you after break.
Hi, I'm Taylor Millard, co-host of The Right War, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I'll give you one simple reason why you need to listen to Liz Harrison and me every Wednesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern. You never know when I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. Liz, I've had similar situations with you in bed. Wait,
What? What?
That just came out way wrong. That's The Right War, every Wednesdays and Thursdays at 11 p.m. Eastern, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
This is Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 28th. The Congressional Budget Office has released its latest estimate on the cost of Obamacare subsidies for poor and middle-class Americans. The figure shows the president's signature health care law is significantly over budget. Obamacare is projected to run a $1.35 trillion deficit. It will be expected to cost nearly $2 trillion, but bring in $645 billion in taxes, fees, and penalties over the same period of time. That works out to a cost of $50,000 for each subsidized person, and the forecast means there will likely be higher costs in the future. In a 2009 speech, the president vowed not to sign the law if it added to the deficit, and that the cost would be $30,000 for each uninsured American, covering about 30 million people. But even with the high price tag over the next decade, an estimated 31 million people will be without medical insurance, and costs for each individual will rise by 66%. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints issued a press release Tuesday stating support for the LGBT non-discrimination law in the wake of Utah considering SB 100, an act that would add sexual orientation and gender identity to the state's list of anti-discrimination protections. At the same time, the Church reiterated support for laws protecting religious freedom and for not forcing religious institutions to perform same-sex marriages. The Church also advocated for special protections for religious organizations, including the ability to refuse to perform same-sex marriages if the ban is overturned nationally. 19 states have passed religious freedom measures to ensure the right to religious practice, including the right to refuse to perform same-sex marriages. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of same-sex marriage in June, it is likely the next battleground will be whether or not churches can be compelled to perform same-sex ceremonies. The National Bureau of Economic Research has compiled job gain data from 2014 and has made a compelling discovery. Of the 3 million jobs created in 2014, 1.8 million of them were a direct result of the reduction in unemployment benefits. Federal unemployment insurance dropped to 24 weeks from 53 weeks at the end of 2013, a move opposed by the Obama administration. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker has formed a political committee to expand his message before making a formal run for the presidency in 2016. Walker received strong support when he spoke at the Iowa Freedom Summit this past Saturday. The committee website, Our American Revival, launched Tuesday. Walker also hired former Republican National Committee political director Rick Wiley to run the effort. Walker's political career has been notable, winning 3 elections in 4 years, including surviving a recall in a state that twice voted for Barack Obama. The committee Walker formed is a 527, named for the tax-exempt code under which it is filed. Unlike his opponents, some of whom have formed political action committees, a 527 would give Walker more control over the funding he receives. Walker joins likely candidates Jeb Bush, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and Mitt Romney in the pool of potential Republican 2016 nominees. And actress Angelina Jolie is reaching out to the people of Iraq and drawing international attention to the victims slaughtered by ISIS. Jolie took a trip to northern Iraq on Sunday as part of a special envoy with the United Nations. Jolie visited refugee camps and said it was not enough, quote, to defend our values at home. We have to defend them here, in the camps, and in the informal settlements across the Middle East, and in the ruined towns of Iraq and Syria. This has been Amy Curtis with your Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 28th.
My name is Dustin Hoyt from America Our Way, and you can hear me and lots of great other original shows right here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Hi, this is Larry O'Connor from WMAL in Washington, D.C., and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Welcome back to Vigilant Liberty Radio and the Modern Comments Radio Show. I am Amy Curtis, your host, and with me this evening are Chris, the Cranky T-Rex, and our producer, Taylor. Before the break, we were talking movies, and we're going to continue talking movies after the break. And we were discussing everything from adaptations to the Ghostbusters sequel, I guess you could call it. And in the second half of the show, since time does fly, I want to talk about American Sniper and some of the movies that we've seen recently to give you, the listener, a sort of review. And if you haven't seen American Sniper yet, or if you have an idea of you want to go to the movies and are looking for an idea, maybe we can help you out there. So I put a link in the chat room earlier, and I'll put it in again from Deadline, where they're thinking that this weekend is obviously the Super Bowl, and typically it's a death knell for movies because everybody's distracted by the big game, and they're saying American Sniper probably will continue to do as well as it's been doing over the Super Bowl weekend because it's just been enormously popular. And I know that I went and saw it last Saturday. We bought tickets in advance, and I'm going to suggest that you do that as well because we got to the theater at 6:15. The movie was at 7, and there was already a line down the hallway from the theater where it was playing. And I didn't verify this with theater staff, but it looked like they took the theaters where other movies were playing during the day, and then at night, anticipating that American Sniper was going to be so big, they switched those theaters to American Sniper. And the line, by the time the doors opened and we were able to go in and be seated, had actually had to double back on itself. And I have to tell you, it was endlessly amusing to be standing there and watch people come around the corner at the theater, because our theater is the one that we went to is kind of shaped like a giant letter I, capital letter I. So you've got the big long main section with the concession stand in the middle, and then more theaters out on the little ends there. And every time somebody came around the corner and they saw the line, they kind of went, "Whoa, like there's a line." And I said, "Yeah, there's a line." It's been insanely popular, and the theater was sold out. There was not a seat left in the place for the 7 o'clock showing. I know the 4:25 and the 5:25, and I think there was one at 6 in another theater, and they all sold out as well. And I think the one immediately after at 9:45 was also close to selling out when we left the theater and went home. So, and I see Chris put his review up in the chat room, so you also got a chance to see that. What did you think of it, Chris?
I thought it was pretty good. We had the same issue, actually. The first weekend, I wanted to see it opening weekend so I could review it for BuzzPo and get that done, but I had the plague from VLR, so I couldn't really do anything. But we saw it the following weekend, that Saturday evening, and surprisingly enough, our theater was sold out. We got in, we sat down, got there, 15, 20 minutes early, sitting down, figuring that it'll be an empty theater, and nope, filled right up by the time the movie started, and that was pretty impressive. We're all looking at each other, where all these people come from? This second weekend, nobody comes to second weekend in movies. I thought it was a very well done film. It was very powerful. It definitely has the most memorable ending of any movie I've ever gone to see, because as the credits rolled, everyone got up and filed out of that theater silently. I mean, almost dead silence, except for a couple people coughing and some occasional murmuring. Basically, nobody said a word. And because the credits that rolled don't actually have any music on them, the theater itself is quiet. It was just a strange experience. It was almost like a procession rather than people leaving a theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they usually, they whip out the cell phones and
Yeah,
are looking at their messages. Nobody, very few people did that in the theater where I was, and the silence gets your attention because I've never seen anything like that. Usually the credits have music over them, and there's a bunch of noise, and there wasn't.
Usually when we finish a movie, I'll look at my friends and just give my immediate opinion of how that was. That sucked, or that was good, or I'd like to see another one of those. And I turned to them and I was going to say something, and I couldn't. There was something about the way that movie ends that I felt like I had to wait until I was at least out of the theater before I opened my mouth. And we all got up and we walked out quietly, and the first thing we all said when we got outside was like, wow, that was the quietest I've ever heard anyone ever leave a movie theater.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, I'm going to do that now. If you don't know the story of Chris Kyle and what happened, in February of 2013, he was killed by somebody he was trying to help through his work, working with soldiers who returned from war and were suffering from things like PTSD. And there were, in my theater, not a lot, but a couple of audible gasps when that sort of caption came up on the screen. And it gets you. And the movie definitely earned that R rating. There's obviously language, but there are some scenes that are absolutely brutal to watch. Very hard to watch.
Yeah, that scene with the power drill would probably be the one.
The scene with the power drill, and did you see it, Taylor?
Yeah, I saw it on Saturday.
Okay.
I will not be able... Yeah. What? You haven't listened to Saturday Night Cigar Lounge? I gave my review.
I know. Saturday I was at the movie.
But you haven't listened to the podcast, Amy?
I haven't listened to the podcast yet. It's on my things.
I'm outraged. I'm outraged.
Am I going to end up on the grudge list?
You are
now?
on the grudge list.
I am on the grudge list. Well, I will make you a promise.
You are on the grudge list. No,
I will make you a promise.
No, I'm teasing. No, I saw the movie on Saturday, and I will not be able to see that film again. I'm gonna buy it when it comes out on Blu-ray. I'm gonna instantly go and buy it. I am not going to be able to watch it again.
No, and
movies are they're really, really hard on me.
Yeah, they are, and that. Yeah, the scene with the power drill, that one was particularly brutal, and I think we were meant to be frustrated by the fact that he being Chris Kyle, was so close to the guys that they were trying to get, but they couldn't do anything, and they couldn't stop.
It was a really well shot scene. I mean, the way that Eastwood makes it plain that there's really nothing he can do about it, and he keeps trying to do something about it, but he can't because he's pinned down, and you're watching it thinking that the movie magic is going to happen, right? There's no way that this is going to happen to this kid. He's going to suddenly jump over the wall and do some kind of trick shot down as he's falling, and he'll be fine, and everybody will be fine, and nope.
No, and Clint Eastwood is a remarkable director. That movie just was it was powerful, and it was thought-provoking, and it was emotional, but it also had those really kind of great moments. The relationship between Chris Kyle and Taya, his wife, played by Sienna Miller, were really, really good and really powerful, and they felt real. They didn't feel contrived, especially when she's fighting with him about coming home. And not just in the physical sense, but in, the mental sense to their family. They had 2 small children, and it really hits the note, and all the areas of your life that are affected by your decision to serve your country, and the sacrifices that not only the soldiers have to make, but their families have to make as well. And there was that issue, the laughable criticism about the fake baby in some of those scenes. And
I didn't even notice that. I came out of the theater and I reread about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I should have been looking. I didn't even notice that there was a fake baby in the movie at all.
I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't seen stuff about it before I went in. But